All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It is a Tuesday morning. We are so glad that you are here and you are just joining us for this wonderful live interview that we have on the way for you for our upcoming production of She Kills Monsters. So, I have the absolute pleasure of getting to chat with Joe Arrigo. So, Joe, hi. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Good morning. I'm good.
Yes, good morning, Facebook world. So, this interview is going to be live right now and right in front of your face. So, if you have any questions at all, you want to learn a little bit more about Joe, please feel free to go ahead and throw whatever questions you may have into our live stream video, so that way I can go ahead and ask him. I know I have a couple from Instagram that I'll be kind of salt and peppering in throughout the course of our interview. But Joe, I want to go ahead and get started. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh yeah. So I grew up in New Orleans. I am from Who Dat Nation, Go Saints Town, New Orleans, and that's where I started. And I went to high school there, and I did theater pretty much all over the place. I started theater in grammar school. And I have a really good story of how I got into drama club. My mother asked me, "Hey, they're starting a drama club at school. Do you want to try for it?" And I went, "Sure. What else?" Because I had nothing better to do. So I did it, and then I never stopped. Went to high school, and then I was like, time to go to college. And I chose the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. And that's where I met a lot of my friends. A lot of people do this show, actually. It's where I met Zach and Libby and LeBorn and Emily and I think my Molly and a couple other people that I met. We have a community here. And then I moved to Atlanta, and now I'm here. And I've been here about a year now. And that's
Yay!
yeah.
So what got you to Atlanta? Was there anything in particular that you were like, I want to be here, as opposed to going to New York or Chicago or any of the other kind of theater hubs?
So at the time, I was senior year of high school, wasn't me. Senior year of college, I was actually looking at going to grad schools to get my MFA in acting. It was on the table, and then I had auditioned for a couple places, and I had a couple offers, but either they didn't come through for whatever reason. Either I would get accepted and something didn't feel right for me to go at the time. It wasn't anything with the programs, just didn't feel right to me at the time, or something about the funding wouldn't come through for me to go where I wanted to go. So I stopped at the grad schools, and I said, well, guess I got to decide where I want to go. And New Orleans is great. I love New Orleans, but in order to make a living in theater in New Orleans, you have to do a bajillion things just to sustain yourself, and it's not easy to do. Anyone that I know that does it works their tails off, and I mean very little sleep. It's very hard to do in New Orleans, and there's not as many opportunities as there are here in Atlanta. And I didn't want to go to a really big market because I didn't have a whole lot of money to start off. So I really couldn't afford to live in New York or LA at the time. And Atlanta was kind of like the closest one. And the big thing, the reason why I wanted to go here was because I had a lot of network of friends and a network of support. Had a lot of people around here that would be able to support me and that I could collaborate with. And I knew that if I had trouble, they could help me out and give me advice of what to do. I wouldn't be alone. And that was the big reason why I came to Atlanta for now. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we are so glad that you're here in the Atlanta area, which is such a huge hub for theatrical activity, with so many different companies doing a lot of varied work, which I think is really, really cool and is what makes this area very unique, that you're not going to find, two companies are not going to be the same. They're going to be very different from each other, which is something, I feel as an actor, but also, as an audience member, you get to feel like, oh, I have so many choices of, where I can go and what I can experience.
Yes, I agree. And that's one of the reasons why I like like it here because the actor in me, I'm not. It's just who I am. I'm not interested in the super big production musicals or the. I'm much more interested in smaller scale shows that are more about the characters and the people in them than the spectacle value, if that makes sense, of the show. I don't have anything against that at all. I don't hate it. It's
It's
just not what I want to do, if that makes sense.
exactly, yeah. Everyone has a different taste, and that is completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally respect that. Did you always know that you wanted to pursue acting, or is that something that kind of evolved, throughout your life? How'd you get to where you are now with that realization?
Yeah, when I went to college, my plan was to major in political science and to minor in theater. That was the plan. And then I did a tour. This was before I had actually chosen to go to Alabama. I did a tour of the university. And we got to the point where I had not even seen anything in the theater department yet. I had no idea what it was about. Didn't figure that out for a couple years and figure out what that was. But I was sitting with I can't tell you his name. I don't know who it was, and I never saw him again in my life. There was some random arts and sciences advisor that I met with on the tour. Whoever he was, I had no clue. It was just someone who they set up a meeting with. I had a private tour, and they set up a meeting with him, and this was the guy. This was the guy who got suckered into talking to this little prospective student. And I told them what my plan was. I wanted to major in political science and minor in theater, because to me, theater was a hobby, and I couldn't see myself not doing it. But I didn't think it was worth pursuing as a career. I didn't think I was good enough, and a whole bunch of other things. I was 18. Come on, I didn't know anything. And then he gave me probably the best advice I've ever had. He's like, if you're gonna do it, you might as well major in it. And I went, okay. So I double majored in theater. That was it. That guy changed my life. I don't know who he is. But he said, if you want to major in it, just major in it. So I ended up because I couldn't at the time, as soon as I got there, first semester freshman year, I declared that as my major too. And yeah, that's how I got into it. And throughout college, I always thought that law school for a really long time was the path for me. Because that's how my brain works too, is like a lawyer, for better or for worse. And yeah, at a certain point, I don't know when it was. I can't tell you when it was. I don't know if it was when I started getting cast in shows. I realized that, hey, you know what? I could actually do this. And it was the support of a lot of the faculty at the university too that made me realize, you know what? I can do this. Let's take a shot. So that's how I ended up where I am. I decided to take the shot. Yeah.
Nice. Well, and that's also cool that you're pursuing theater, but then you're also pursuing political science,
Right.
Which can at times also be theatrical and
Yes.
in its own way.
Yes.
Have you gotten an opportunity to be able to marry the two disciplines together yet?
Um, my instinctual answer was yes, but I don't remember that time what it was. Anytime I will say, anytime that I have ever given a speech or something like that for whatever class, I took a public speaking class one time because there's always a political nature to giving a speech, whatever that may be. Trying to get the audience on your side, using your acting training, and then using what you know of how people think from political science is very useful. I can talk your ear off about things because I can, and I know I can kind of have a sense of what people want to hear, which is scary that that's the political science aspect of things. That's a little frightening that people can just say what they want to hear as opposed to what they need to hear sometimes. But yeah, I guess another instance of marrying it is anytime there's a show when you have like a historical context and you need to understand the political climate during that historical context. I can't think of an example where I've needed to do that. The closest example I can think of would be, now that I think about it, this is it, would be the Caucasian chalk circle. It's a Brecht piece, and you need to understand kind of Brecht's politics.
Oh yeah, Brecht. All of Brechtian theater is just kind of married within just kind of the politics at the time when
Yeah.
it was written.
And now that I think about it, that's probably the best example of where I was able to marry the two, because I remember day one of that process. We had a slideshow from the dramaturg to understand, because you got to have that when you do Brecht, to understand his devices and what the political climate at the time was when he wrote it. And I remember I was in heaven. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I'm writing down everything. And that would be it. And I once I had that slideshow, and then I remembered at what point in history we were at, I was got it.
Right there.
I knew what we were doing.
Awesome. So you are a very new face to Elm Street, which is very exciting. Have you been able to do anything at some other production companies that maybe people have seen you in, or you want to give a little shout out to that, like, hey, I was in this?
Yeah, so I've done really one other thing at the time, because first of all, when I got to Atlanta, my goal was not I'm going to go audition. I need to make sure that I could sustain myself. So I found a job and kind of worked at that job a little bit before I started auditioning for a lot of things. So the only thing that I really did was Happy Accident Theater's 10-minute play festival. It's Zach's company.
Yeah,
I did that, and I auditioned for that, and boy, that was a blast. I got to play, I think it was 6 different characters in that thing. I want to say 6, might be 7, and I got to play all sort. You want comedy? Did it. Drama? Did it. You want me to do a serio comic monologue for 10 minutes? I did that too. I did a I did a play where I was turned into a sandwich, and the sandwich was just like a sub sandwich sitting on a stool, and I was the voice actor for it while I was watching doing, and then I came out and did like a Hamlet monologue with the skull in my hand, which was the sandwich, and got to say mayonnaise a bunch of times. And then there was another one I did where people with dead bodies were all around me, and I was playing a kid, and I was like, I was too prideful. Like, I did this, I did that, and there was like, my friend died of dysentery, and it slowly reveals that the whole thing is the Oregon Trail, like the game, the Oregon Trail, some dystopian Oregon Trail game, and it's not real. Yeah, I did stuff like that. That was a blast. And my motto is, you need me to do something in a show, I'll do it. And I got to do a lot. I did a silent show too. It was a 10-minute, like a mime piece almost. It was a blast. I haven't had that much fun doing so many different parts in a really long time. So probably since Chalk Circle, when I played a bunch of different characters. So
yeah, no, it sounds like you have like a very varied repertoire of experiences, particularly with the stuff that you did with Happy Accident, which is super cool. So then what got you to She Kills Monsters?
Yeah, I saw that Zach was directing the show, and I saw a lot of puffs. I came and saw puffs 3 times because Zach had directed it, and then a lot of my friends were in it. And then I saw that Zach was directing one again, and it was She Kills Monsters, and it was a show that I was vaguely familiar with. They did a production of it. One of the student organizations did a production of it while I was in college. I didn't see it. That was before I knew what I was doing at the University of Alabama yet, but I knew of the show, and I was like, hey, this could be pretty cool. So I auditioned for it, and I got in, and I was super excited.
Yeah, and yeah, we are very excited to have you here and to have you be sharing your talents with us. So jumping into She Kills Monsters a little bit more, can you tell us about the character that you play and how they function in the world of the story?
I play Steve. How he functions is it's not a complicated question. Steve is almost purely the comedic relief. Purely That is all he does. He comes on stage and he has one bit, and that is that he dies in 30 seconds. I'm really good at dying in this show. uh, he died. I tried to count the other day how many times I died this show, whether it be as Steve or I also function as just some generic monsters. I play a bugbear and a kobold. I tried to count how many times I die, and I think I'm up to 15.
Oh wow.
I think, because there's sometimes I like almost die twice. So, yeah, and
Count those as halves?
I'm sorry.
Do you count those as halves? The almost dying.
No, that counts as dying because I want a high number. I pad the statistics. Uh, yeah, but Steve, the kid is just this high school kid trying to figure out what he's doing for college. And his college applications and stuff like that. He's got like 2 scenes of being that kid, and even the teachers hate him. He's that annoying kid that keeps on asking questions, and he's just an all-around loser.
Oh.
And then in the D&D world, it's Chuck's imagination of what Steve is, and Steve all of a sudden is this grand, great mage. It is I, and he immediately gets smitten down, smote down. He's smited down by whatever beast is there, like it is I. Boom, dead. Oh. And yeah, that's it. And yeah, that's kind of what Steve does. This is going to sound a little nerdy, but I don't have.
The show's about celebrating nerd culture, so I don't think anything you will say, I'll be like, oh, that's way too nerdy for this show. Get that out of here.
I see my role as I don't know a lot about it, but I know a little bit about the psychology of it in professional wrestling, where they have these jobbers. I looked into this. I did research for this role. They have these jobbers whose sole goal is to lose over and over again for the purpose of either A, making the good guy look really strong and good, or making the bad guy look really evil or really scary. So Steve is sort of like, they call him jobbers, the jobber of She Kills Monsters. He'll die really fast to make your heroes look good, or make your evil beasts look scary. And so I try to think about that and how can I make them look good, and also make my deaths entertaining.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it, and I think that I applaud you for your research into that, instead of being like, oh, well, I'm just here, I'm gonna make it a bit, where can I go deeper with this, to give me like a full realized character, which I think in the world and in the story of She Kills Monsters, I think is very important. Because it's not, the show is not a parody. Mm-hmm. It is, it has a real story that has, a lot of laughs, but also has a lot of heart too. So you've got to be able to, to communicate that as effectively as possible. Mm-hmm. So, you said that you die about 15-ish times, at least so far from current counts. So that means we're going to see a decent amount of fighting in this show. I guess a two-parter question for you. What has that experience been like for you? And have you had any experience in fight choreography or theatrical stage combat prior to being involved in the show?
I'll answer the second part for you first. I actually had little to none going into this show, which actually to me kind of surprises me that I've said that, because I've done so many different variety of roles and stuff like that somehow that hasn't come up in my repertoire career so far, that I haven't really done that. The closest thing that I ever did was like in Gannett, it's a Will Eno show. I had a quote unquote fight call where I have to faint in the middle of the show and a couple of other stuff. So I practiced fainting over and over again, but there were no weapons or anything like that. But I had a lot of friends who were into the fight choreography, so I watched them do it and heard them talk about it. So like I was versed in the terminology a little bit, but I had never done it before. But that being said, doing it for this show, it hasn't felt overwhelming to me at any point, or I mean, it can get difficult, but it wasn't like cumbersome to me. Uh, they were real patient, and Zach and Libby assisted choreographed words. Um, they really talked me through the stuff and helped me, and they'll just show you, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. And I'm ending up getting a lot out of it because I have so many different weapons that I have over the course of the show. This kind of I kind of have a running joke that backstage I just put, because I play so many different characters and different deaths and different scenes, I just have all my weapons in what I call Station Steve in the back corner of of the stage, and I just pick up the weapon for the next fight and have everything written down on what's next. And it hasn't been overwhelming, and I've learned a lot out of it. It's wild, and having to die safely is a lot harder than it sounds like. The other day I got scraped by a sword, not hard, like just a little. It was like, whoa, that was close, you know. And yeah, it's rehearsal. It happens. I'm not mad about it. But dying is hard. It's hard, and figuring out how to roll off stage when you're dead is also hard. So the first couple days, I actually had a bruise on my arm, and it wasn't from people hitting me or anything. It's because I realized that every time I died, I kept on landing on my arm, and I was like, where did this come from? And then I couldn't do it anymore. Like the bruise was too, not dark, or it was just, it hurt too much. I was like, I got to figure out a new way to die because I can't do the same thing. So I adjusted, and we're good now.
Yay! All good for being good. That's very important.
Yeah.
And so obviously this show touches a lot on nerd culture, but specifically with the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Prior to being in this show, did you have a lot of experience with the game?
Very, very little. I have played before, but I've never really finished a campaign. In college, at least, I was so busy. I never really had time to set, you're supposed to set like weekly meetings and stuff. I never had a consistent schedule when that would work out for me. And this is going to sound sad, but I don't mean it in a sad way. And in at least high school and stuff, I didn't have like a group of friends that would want to do that. I had friends. I wasn't lonely. That just wasn't a mutual interest of people. And I wasn't super into it myself. Not that I'm opposed to it. Like if someone said want to play, I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? Actually, during quarantine, March or so, a couple of my friends put together a game, and we Zoomed it. I played one with Zach, and I played one with a couple of other people. Laborn, I've played almost every time I've ever played. Laborn has been involved with it. Laborn helps me figure out how to create the character sheets and stuff like that. I find it fun. I love doing it. I just haven't had a whole lot of opportunities to do it, if that makes sense. Because it's playing D&D is it's a commitment, for lack of a better word. It's an involved game, and you gotta make time for it. And admittedly, I just haven't been able to do that. But I like it, I enjoy it. I've rolled the dice. I haven't died, so I'm gonna go with that's a win.
I think so.
Yeah.
Chalk that up as a win.
that is considered, yes, win. I won D&D, everyone. I need everyone listening. I won. I'm sorry it's over.
So Joe, as we wrap up, what are some takeaways that you hope a potential audience member will get from the show, or why should they come and check out the show, whether that's in person or digitally? Why should they experience this story?
Yeah, so I think that there are a couple layers to this show that a lot of shows don't have. First and foremost, the most obvious thing this show has is the spectacle of all the fights. It is a treat to look at. It is like, wow, how did they do that? And the ones that I'm not in, because I can't see the ones that I'm in from that perspective, the ones that I'm not in, I look at and go, wow, that's amazing. How did they do that? And there's the spectacle level of just seeing that on a stage and not in a movie, and seeing that on a stage in this context is just it's really fascinating to me. It's watching, especially because it's a lot of my friends who do it. Watching people do that is remarkable. And then underneath all that, because there are a lot of shows out there that just rely purely on that spectacle, and that's what gets people in the seats to go see the shows is what does it look like? Wow, ooh, feast for the eyes. But this one has another layer and a couple other layers beneath it. And that's the heart and soul of the story. The story is really touching. That's underneath it. And I'm going to steal something from something I saw last night because I just recently got Disney Plus. And for some reason, I watched the National Geographic channel, The Cosmos, last night. Watched the first episode with Neil deGrasse Tyson hosting. I promise you this is going somewhere. And we were talking about, as if I was part of it. He was talking about the cosmic calendar and at what point humanity evolved major points. And at one point he said something that made me think about the show. And he said that when humans developed writing, it was more than just counting things of grain. All of a sudden, people were recording their thoughts down. And they were achieving immortality in that way. That their thoughts that they were writing down on a piece of paper is a way, or tablet, whatever they had back then, was their way of achieving immortality, so that nowadays we read things like the Epic of Gilgamesh, and we have Hammurabi's Code and stuff like that. And that made me think about this show, and that Tilly has passed away, but we still have this writing, this notebook of her. And that, in a way, is immortality. As long as we have, not necessarily even that notebook, but now we have the memories of her, which will last even longer. And that's the heart of it to me, that even when someone's gone, there's always a piece of them somewhere, whether that be a D&D notebook or even a photo or any number of things. There's always a piece of them that's still around, and how we deal with that. And that's the heart of the show for me. That really, conveniently, me watching it last night really encompassed and made me think of it in those terms.
I love that. That was so profound. Like I think you described, the great appeal that this show has and the heart that it has, I think, in such a great way that I know we cannot wait for people to experience this show and in this very special story that they'll be able to connect with, whether they have a ton of experience with D&D or none at all, because at the end of the day, it's more so about the heart,
right,
that's at the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think on that very lovely and fuzzy feeling note, I think we'll go ahead and hop off. I want to thank everyone for watching and just kind of checking out all that we're doing. Of course, Joe, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat a little bit and learn more about you and your take on the show. And we cannot wait for She Kills Monsters to open, not this coming Friday, but next Friday. And we hope to see you there, either in person or online. But until then, please stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, and we will talk to you later.
Bye, everyone.